fellow travelers, welcome to the 113th level of the RPG Cave. I am one of your hosts, the level 199 Dark Lord Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 199 Battle Alchemist, Dr. Garret Bland. Garret, how are you doing on this lovely Monday evening? Good, sir.
I'm doing good. I'm here to give you the weekly weather report.
Oh, excellent. I'm excited about this. This is what I live for, Garret, every single week.
Exactly. It's clear skies. It's high 70, low 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's like perfect temperature right now. It's like pretty good. This is a good time to be out. Yeah.
That's good. It's slightly better than here, Garret, because it is it's a cool, crisp 3 degrees Celsius outside. It's
cold.
Supposed to be going down to -1 this evening. We might even see snow.
32
days, Garret.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. See, I know when the Celsius and Fahrenheit meet, it's the 5th, 9th, or 9/5, whatever, plus or minus 32. It's like that kind of business going on.
That conversion literally makes no sense to me, Garret. It's just math. It's bad math. No,
I don't understand. Yeah. So I don't know where the origins came from with Fahrenheit, but they really messed it up because Celsius is scientifically makes sense. It's 0 degrees boiling hot water, 100 degrees Celsius freezing water, and then Fahrenheit's like, well, if it gets a little low, it's a little cold. It gets a little high, it's pretty high.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
Anyways. Clearly, Garret, Yawn 32 is here for the weather. Yawn 32 is excited about this.
1000%. Yeah. So there you go.
To be fair, Yawn 32 also from Canada and also from a similar area than me. So he's got a very similar weather pattern to me, which is exciting.
Pretty cold.
This is, of course, Garret. It's not the weather PG cave. It's the RPG cave. I know. It's very, very deceptive. You might not know it, but that's exactly the podcast you're listening to. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do it. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now, or at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to hit that like button, kick that subscribe button, and let us know in the comments below what your favorite Intelligent Systems games is. And if you don't know the games from Intelligent Systems, we're gonna tell you all about them tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because that is, of course, tonight's topic. But we'll get
all the 1,000 games that they developed, apparently.
Look, Garret, all I'm gonna say is that the default answer for anyone who doesn't have a favorite game for them, it's going to be Battle Clash on the Super Nintendo, because you played that game with the Super Scope 6 and it's got mechs. I mean, what else do you need? What else do you need?
I didn't know that. So there you go. Learn something new every day.
We're going to talk about the Super Scope 6 later, Garret. I'm excited
about goodness.
It. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to hit that subscribe button there as well if you haven't subscribed already. And also let us know in Apple Podcast review what you think about the show, or let us know in the Spotify comments if you're listening on Spotify. And of course, make sure to rate us on those platforms, because it definitely helps the cave grow and helps inhabitants find the cave. Because there's not really a sign pointing to where the cave is, Garret, but
it's like a mushroom cave,
Exactly. But through the power of, Apple Podcast reviews, a sign appears, Garret, to point people to where the cave is. And people then can find the cave and then come hang out in the cave with us and talk about role-playing games, or find another carpool gaming podcast.
Or we can give them mushrooms that's growing in our mushroom cave farm.
What is with you in the mushroom cave, man?
Because I know there's such thing as mushroom farms and caves, I guess. I don't know.
I literally don't know enough about this subject to be able to comment on it, so I'm just going to move on. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic universe on it, you can head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. There's a little tip jar and outcomes content, including some exclusive content with myself. Ryan, I did the Pants Patreon podcast for patrons podcast this week, which of course is exclusive to patreon.com/carpoolgaming. So if you want to, of course, hear our little AMA show with me this week, you can head on over to the Patreon. It's hanging out there. I did even use some music from Persona 3 in this week's episode. It's exciting. But then, Garret, last but not least, kind of the big thing that
the biggest thing
has been all over our Twitter feed today. Extra Life is coming, y'all. It's this week.
It's coming hard.
It's finally happening. We, of course, announced all of our brand new merch because we have brand new Carpool Gaming Extra Life merch. That, of course, all of the proceeds that we earn from the merch go towards our Extra Life. So you'll actually be donating to charity when you actually purchase some of our things here. You just go to carpoolgaming.com, you scroll down the page to this Extra Life 2023 is here. You click this, will take me to the merch. Look at that, Garrett. We got a hoodie, we got a mug, we got a shirt, it's got this little cool little design with the wings.
I like the tagline 100%. Go the extra mile. I like this logo too all around. So yeah,
it's pretty sweet. You can get in different colors. If you don't like gray or white. Although honestly, Garrett, I think with the logo itself, I think it looks better on the gray or the white. Probably not the black as much because it kind of blends it a little bit. Although maybe it looks better laid person.
I like the regular sport gray for sure. Yeah, on that one.
You can't get a different color mug, but this mug looks really cool. Yeah. I like it, as one might say.
Ryan, these Canadian prices are killing me. Like, what's this 16 cents?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to actually press this button and then it now shows up normal prices, normal Garrett?
Now for $14.99.
Well, too bad. I pressed the back button and now it's Canadian prices again.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, you can look at this hoodie, Garrett. It's $70.42.
It's so random.
That's just the conversion, man.
That's the conversion. Yes, I understand.
I mean, likewise, Garrett, if we wanted to find out the prices Fulia pays, we got 80-21, Garrett.
Man, I feel bad. I feel sorry for those Australians and also those Brazilians. They get a lot of tariffs over there too with video games.
Yeah, but either way, you'd be not only repping some cool merch, but also you'd be helping support an amazing cause because, of course, we have dedicated our Extra Life this year to Miles. And you can find out all about Miles on our Extra Life page, extra-life.org/participant/carpool gaming, or you can follow the link on our Twitter or on our website, carpoolgaming.com. And as well as I know Sean made a quick video about Miles. So you can definitely check that out as well. Because we're definitely dedicating our Extra Life once again to Miles. So huge shout out to Miles and his family for allowing us to help out a little bit. So there you go. This weekend, Rome, New York, November 4th. There will be a live stream, twitch.tv/carpool gaming live for 25 hours straight. Please be excited. Sean Capri, Seth Sturgill, and Miles of Amanda will all be there playing some games all day. You can just hang out. We've also got amazing prizes we're giving away, Garrett. We're giving away a bunch of Xbox, Game Pass codes. We're giving me Xbox games. We're giving away an Extra Life keyboard. We're giving away these Starfield controllers. We have 2 of them that we're giving away.
They look so good.
And a whole bunch of other games and a lot more. So you check out all the prizes again. We've got them all listed on our Extra Life page, as well as some incentives, like you can sponsor an hour yourself if you want to do that, or as well if you want to get a Bobby plushie, Garrett, because you may have seen in the window here these little Bobby plushies, Garrett.
Yeah, they look really dope.
They're made, of course, by Marcus O'Neill's wife, and she was so kind to make them for us. Well, she's making 5 more. If you donate $200, the first 5 people to donate $200, one of them has been taken, by the way, will receive one of these Bobby plushies.
That was $250.
Maybe I have my facts wrong. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
Garrett, wait for a second while I look it up.
Okay, sounds good. That is a really cool like nitty thing, the Bobby thing. I remember winning the Fantasy Critic for oh my gosh, the PlayStation podcast the Trophy Room. I actually won a Fantasy Critic League like 1 year, and I got actually Horizon Zero Dawn, the main character in a
Aloy.
Aloy in the Little Big Planet, like main character, like kind of fashion. It was actually kind of cool, and knitting in that fashion too because of it. So there you go. Looks really cool.
Garrett, thank you for reminding me. It is $250. So
it is $250.
My bad. This is why I wanted to confirm the facts, Garrett. This is why I wanted to confirm the facts. Also, we got Sea of Stars codes to give away as well. Of course, that is relevant to our audience, Garrett, because our audience likes RPGs. And Sabotage Studios was very, very nice to us.
Very nice to us.
Allowing
Thank you so
us to
much.
give away some of those away, and a whole lot of other cool stuff. So check out our Extra Life page, and consider donating to this wonderful, wonderful cause throughout the year, because we'll be doing that till the end of the year. We'll be raising money for the Stollery Children's Hospital in Edmonton, Alberta. But anyways, Garrett, that's all with clearing the dungeon. We should probably, before getting into the sacred text, Garrett, we got to do a little side quest, because you reminded me.
Let's do it.
We're going to go on a side quest because Garrett, you've been playing a game and you told me updates have been had.
Yes. So I have been playing Valkyria Chronicles 1 on my Steam Deck. Yeah. And actually it runs really nice on the Steam Deck. Like I get, the full 3 hours of battery life, 3 to 4 hours. It's quiet. Like it doesn't heat up my Steam Deck at all. Very optimized on the handheld. Let me put it back. Ooh, such a pain. So I am 11 hours into this game. So
nice.
There are 18 chapters. I'm on chapter 8 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. You're making progress.
I'm making progress. I like it so far. I don't think I love it. I don't think it's really impressing me as much as the other games that I've been playing, such as Shining Force and Parasite Eve. Okay. But I think it has its own flavor of tactical RPG for sure. It totally set, it's kind of like XCOM, but it's kind of like Fire Emblem in a way.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a blend between the two, I would say. And it's very different too, in a way that your characters are more expendable than I originally thought. Because Fire Emblem's you do not want to have your characters get killed at all. That's the classic Fire Emblem way. You don't want your characters are the investment. They are their own classes. They are your own skills. Whereas Valkyria Chronicles, well, you're gonna hire some, and then but they'll die. They'll definitely die. But they'll just kind of go back to your base, and you get to put in more into the game. So it really just kind of changes my mindset with a tactical RPG. So. I think I just went through my least favorite mission, which is chapter 7. There's this big tank mission. I'm just I can't do this. They didn't really tell me too much what to do. And then it was by the end of it, I understood what I needed to do. But mechanically, it took 20 turns to figure it out. Just figure out what to do. But anyways, I'm still enjoying it. I'm enjoying the story so far. It seems like it's going on a interesting road here. Definitely more leaning into the anime style, which I like.
Well, it's like an anime war story. It's alternate World War II, but anime style, essentially. So that which of course plays into the gameplay as well, with the troops being kind of expendable in a way, because that's kind of just the way they would do it in the war, essentially, where they would send in waves of troops that way, and some of them would get killed, and that would be the thought process. So it kind of makes sense gameplay wise to have it play out that way. And it's also not uncommon for a lot of strategy role-playing games to kind of do that kind of thing too, because even something like Shining Force, where there's a penalty for your guys dying, but it's not that much of a penalty, and you find towards the end of the game that some of your characters do become expendable. Always leaning on every single member of your party until you're playing the higher difficulties, and you really have to focus in more.
I think the major difference between say a Shining Force and a Fire Emblem, where you really invest in a character and they level up, whereas this one, you don't level up a character, you level up the class as you go. And so that's another major difference too. It's I don't feel like I have an attachment to a character into this game, unless it's the main character and then the other scout character as well.
They want you to be invested in the characters that are part of the actual narrative, versus worrying about the characters on the field.
So I don't really care too much about there's some likes and dislikes and some little abilities that may change, like some buffs and debuffs, but it really doesn't really change the way you play the game. So that's fine. That's totally fine. But yeah, overall, I'm enjoying it. It's a good game so far. How about that?
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad, at least you're enjoying it. At least I know you're not enjoying it as much as the other 2 games I've recommended, but at least like you're having some fun with it. Like I was a little bit worried you'd come back and be like, this game sucks. Please don't make me play this game ever again.
Well, I'm popping in, like, let's say, like a morning session. It's really easy to go into this game and play it piecemeal, just because the way it's like mission by mission. It's by a storybook, like kind of clip. You don't really do much grinding, at least as far as I know. Maybe there's some grinding later, but
only a teeny bit. But the game doesn't really leave many options for you to grind anyways.
That's true.
So you don't really that because it's not like a focus of the game or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You have some longer missions instead of grinding, which can slow down things a little bit. But I just remember like when I played it on PS3, like I really, really loved that game back then. But I will be the first to admit that, I already knew going into this that the game's mechanics didn't really age super well. But
okay.
I still thought it'd be fun. I still thought it'd be fun to play.
Yeah. It's not like broken. Sometimes it's broken because the line of sight is a little finicky. Sometimes I like miss and I'm like, how did I miss that?
Yeah. At least
it's kind of insane.
At least Valkyria Chronicles is like the best game in like this style of game, because Garrett, there's only one other game I know about in all role-playing games, like strategy role-playing games, that plays exactly like this game, and that's Natural Doctrine for the PlayStation Vita, which is probably one of the worst role-playing games I've ever played in my entire life.
Really? I hear it's so it's you don't like it, but
it's so hard. Like it, right? It's so hard. It's so and it's, I mean, it's not even like the type of difficult that I like. It's just like it's difficult just to be difficult. Like it's just a very unfair game, to the point, Garrett, where people in Japan couldn't even get past the first level in Natural Doctrine because of how hard it was. So they had to patch the game to reduce the overall difficulty of it because it was so hard.
And they're making a second one, or at least someone is. Like, not the original developer.
It turned out like, because it wasn't popular when it came out, but they somehow became this cult hit out of nowhere, and I have no idea how that happened. But
Devolver Digital, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. I mean, don't get me wrong, this makes sense because we live in a world where plumbers don't wear ties. The famous slideshow game from the 3DO is getting a remaster this December from Limited Run Games. So I mean, if that can happen, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. So yeah, I'm still on a quest. I am definitely will continue playing it. I think I'll beat it like in the next couple weeks or so. I want to finish it before Persona 5 Tactica, because that's gonna steal my life.
No joke. I have a feeling you probably will, because I actually have to commend you, Garrett, for actually sticking with Valkyria Chronicles when there are so many games that are out right now that are brand new, that are really good.
Yeah. So. Well, that's why I love my Steam Deck so much, because it's really the most versatile machine in terms of like just like older game content, RPGs. But also, Ryan, I have a dual boot on my Steam Deck now. I can go to Windows and actually partition my memory card, part of my memory card, to load games in there in the Windows setting. So that's my like indie / RPG Game Pass PC machine now. So Persona 5 Tactica is gonna be on my Steam Deck. I can't wait.
Nice.
I can't wait.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be on Game Pass, so yeah, you have at that point you'd be silly even not to install it at this point.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm excited for it too, man. It's right around the corner, so it's gonna be pretty cool. But anyways, Garrett, it is now time to read from the sacred text. 20 minutes in the show, we can finally get to our main topic. We're becoming more and more like the Nintendo Drive every day, and it scares me. But
I love it.
All right, Garrett. Tonight's topic, as I mentioned earlier, is intelligent systems. For those that don't know intelligent systems, they are the studio, of course, behind the Fire Emblem series, most famously. But they also handle a bunch of other series for Nintendo that we're going to talk about throughout the show. In fact, Garrett was very surprised to learn the games that Intelligent Systems has developed, because they have their hands in so much stuff like at Nintendo, which
is so
just
surprising.
Funny to think about, because, you know, to this day, they're actually a company that has worked with Nintendo since 1986, but has never actually been purchased by Nintendo. Never become part of a Nintendo.
Really? It's not part of...
No.
Really? So it's like a second part? Well, okay. So that's different from, like, let's say Monolith Soft, which is a first party studio, right?
Yeah. Like, it's different from Monolith Soft because they actually factually own Monolith Soft.
Yeah.
Whereas Intelligent Systems has a second party relationship with Nintendo. So they're not actually owned by Nintendo.
1986.
But their headquarters is on the same lot as the Nintendo's official HQ lot. So
do you think they have like a financial incentive to not like get this studio? Like,
I don't know. I just think they know they're not going anywhere. So why pay them? Like, why buy them? Like, I think that's the thought process.
I guess
Pokemon Company's the same way, because Pokemon Company isn't owned by Nintendo either.
Well, Pokemon Company I kind of get, just because they're a Pokemon IP. Like, they are kind of stretching out their limbs. They do other games. They release in other systems too, which is kind of, well, Game Freak does, but yeah. So it's a kind of interesting relationship with Nintendo, because they like to do more second party stuff than anything.
Yeah, like this isn't the only studio they have like that. Like, there's a bunch of studios they work with that way. Like, I think HAL is the same way too. HAL Laboratories. Like, I don't think Nintendo owns them either. That they just work with Nintendo on everything.
HAL Labs. Oh my gosh,
I'm pretty sure.
What does Nintendo own? Their IP. So I guess they're
I
good.
mean, yeah, they have all the IP, you know, because they get the
and
companies the companies want to work for them, you know. Next Level Games as well, like the Luigi's Mansion studio, they have them.
That's true. And then the people in Austin, was it Retro Studios?
Retro.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Nintendo R&D, of course.
R&D, yes.
Yeah, that's about it though. Like, for the most part, yeah, they just work. They have this second party relationship again. Like, they really haven't had a reason to go anywhere. So they
got Mercury Steam in a second party relationship too. And then what's that small studio that ports Zelda games?
Oh, Grezzo.
That's it. Yeah, that's another one.
Right.
The second party. Yeah. Interesting company. Anyways, we can continue with Intelligent Systems now.
Of course, because Garrett, it is time, as always, for fun facts. I'm excited to get into fun facts, kind of set the scene, as it will, for Intelligent Systems. So Intelligent Systems as a company was formed in Japan in December of 1986. The company was founded by Taro Nahiro. Sorry, I'm bad at pronouncing names. Who was a programmer that was hired on by Nintendo after working on some early famous Famicom titles, because he worked on the original Mario Brothers, he worked on Duck Hunt, he worked on Devil World, which, by the way, Garrett, just came to NSO today, the day that we're recording this. He also worked on Wrecking Crew, Soccer, so he worked on a lot of like the black box titles for Nintendo. That's kind of how he got his start at Nintendo. So they're like, hey, you're doing good work. We've got this little disc attachment coming to the Famicom, Garrett, called the Famicom Disk System. And we want to port some of our games to the floppy disk console that is the Famicom Disk System. So that was actually what.
So it's a floppy disk.
Yes.
It's okay. Keep on. Yeah, I understand. It's Famicom, the times, but keep on going. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, because the idea, Garrett, is that those discs, the Famicom Disk System discs, actually held more memory than the cartridges, the NES cartridges.
Yeah.
So that's why they were like, oh, let's explore this new medium, because there was actually with some of those versions, Garrett, you not only could save your game before they had the save battery on the cartridges, but you also had slightly better visuals, better sound. Like, there were discernible advantages for playing the games on this system, specifically the versions that were ported. And that's kind of what he was kind of brought in for. Like he was told to kind of hire a team to port a bunch of games from the NES already to the disk system. And that basically the people he was hiring, eventually by the end of the year, when they put out 3 of the disk system games, Tennis, Metroid, and Soccer on the disk system, they were then, were allowed to form Intelligent Systems kind of as their own company. Like they decided to do that, which is pretty cool. But again, like as we mentioned before, they're not actually owned by Nintendo. So Nintendo itself didn't create the company itself. It was still formed by Toru and his staff, but as their own company while contracted with Nintendo to work on these games, if that makes sense. But
interesting.
Yeah. So they worked on some other ports as well to the disk system. They worked on Wrecking Crew for the disk system, as well as a couple other games. But they had their very first game series, which of course that they decided to develop themselves, like released in 1988. And I'm referring to Famicom Wars, Garrett, the first game in the Advance Wars series, which we actually talked about in more detail on the Advance Wars episode that we did a little while ago. So if you want to learn more about that, and kind of like the history there, we talk a lot more about the history of Famicom Wars on that episode. So definitely go back and check the archives for that episode. In fact, I think we did that one earlier this year. So it is a more recent episode. I'm not telling people to go all the way back to the beginning. But then after that, of course, we talked about on the Fire Emblem episode that we did not too long ago, that their next series, of course, after Advance Wars was Fire Emblem, because they wanted to do a strategy game similar to what they did with Famicom Wars, but they wanted to do it in like a fantasy style. So that's where kind of Fire Emblem came from, releasing on the Famicom in 1990. And then of course, from there they really worked under contract with Nintendo kind of as a support studio to help with the Game Boy launch. So they helped work on Alleyway, baseball, golf, like a lot of the launch games for the original Game Boy. They kind of helped out with. So our R&D mostly developed these games themselves, but Intelligent Systems really just worked on the golf port, as well as Yakuman, which was this like it's like not I'm trying to remember the demo game. It's like the game with the tiles, the Japanese game with the tiles that I'm forgetting.
Japanese with the tiles? Oh my gosh, I don't know.
With the tiles, I'm forgetting. Anyways, doesn't matter too much. But they worked on a bunch of different important Super Nintendo games, Garrett, because they of course helped out on Mario Paint, Tetris Attack, Super Metroid, Sim City, as well as like the launch lineup for the Super Scope 6 accessory. So they worked on like the pack-in game that had like the 6 games included. Like they developed a couple of those games, but then they also developed Battle Clash and Battle Clash 2, which were these mech one-on-one battle games that you did with the Super Scope. I had a Super Scope, by the way, as a kid, Garrett, and I was all about the Super Scope. I was a big fan of it.
Super Scope 6. I'm looking.
Are you actually Googling it? You don't know what a Super Scope 6 looks like?
I think I've had one, actually. Well, I didn't have one. My grandmother had one, I think.
Oh. Okay.
I did not have this one. I had the Duck Hunt gun. But I remember seeing this one.
Yeah, like the like this. The bazooka. You gotta have the
bazooka. I didn't
there.
have that one. Oh my gosh. I remember that in Super Smash Brothers. Though.
Yes,
definitely.
It's a power-up in Super Smash Brothers. But this cartridge here, Garrett, this SNES Super Scope 6 cartridge was the pack-in for it, and it had a bunch of games like this. Like there was this like game where you shot down planes, as well as a bunch of other like pack-in games. Like you had 6 pack-in games because it was the Super Scope 6. That's how that works. But then
do you actually look down the scope like that?
Yes, because like you have the scope here. And you look down here.
And it's like a shoulder rest too. It's like a full-on thing. That's interesting.
Thank you, Rybo, for correcting me. It's mahjong and it's Chinese, and I got it wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All good. I remember this in Super Smash Brothers Melee, and then what you can do is actually there's a cheat in the game to make this unlimited ammo. And so you do the technique to make it unlimited ammo. It's like this kind of cannon gun type of thing. And then you can make a supernova or a black hole. It's like a super glitch in the game. And I'll show you later. I'll show you sometime.
Okay.
Not in this show. So
I'm
there
interested.
you go.
I'm
That's
interested.
my super scope
Yeah.
memory.
there's your super scope break. I mean, whereas I was playing, Yoshi's Safari, Battle Clash, and of course the Super Scope Pack-In. Like those were my go-tos on the Super Scope 6. Of course, no, I don't currently have mine, but it was a pretty cool accessory. But
It's
the
big.
the main thing I wanted to take away from this, Garrett, when you look at the list of the games that that Intelligent Systems has worked on, a lot of the games that they provide support for are games that tie in with new accessories or with new consoles. Like, because that's kind of where they help fill in, because I think that's where they have to, like, maybe they need the help the most at Nintendo, kind of filling in on some of those. Like Alleyway was like that, as well as Mario Paint was the first game with the mouse for the Super Nintendo. And again, the Super Scope 6 pack-in stuff. Like I think all that stuff goes to show like they were really around to do that, and you kind of saw that even through the N64 era and then the GameCube era. But as Fire Emblem became more and more popular, and there are other series that they're working on, which I'll get to in a second. As they got more and more popular, they started moving away from doing a ton of support stuff until a certain era afterwards. Of course, I'm talking about the DS and the 3DS era, because they started working more on the DS and the 3DS as kind of like a support studio. But of course, we talked about this franchise a couple episodes ago, Garrett. But Intelligent Systems started their third franchise in 2000 with Paper Mario. Again, we did the whole episode on Paper Mario talking about it, but they've basically been the developers from the beginning on Paper Mario. Like that's been their franchise, like their baby. So, which a lot of people don't really associate Intelligent Systems with Paper Mario, which is
No. It's I wonder how that came to be. I guess maybe they had an idea. It's like, hey, Super Mario RPG was kind of cool. Why don't we make this kind of paper style kind of aesthetic with RPG mechanics and just go for it? And it's just like, okay, sounds good. And it kind of just worked. And they've been making it ever since. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because we talked about the idea was like the reason they brought Intelligent Systems in on Paper Mario was because it was supposed to be Mario RPG 2 and Square was supposed to be involved, and then they ended up not being involved. So like, who do we get to do this? I know, we'll get our role-playing game studio to do this, because at the time they didn't have Monolith Soft. So the studio at Nintendo that was associated with role-playing games was Intelligent Systems, which makes perfect sense. But then also the other series that they've been working on pretty much since the beginning. They started as like the support team on this series, but they've kind of evolved to be the main team on the series. Is also the WarioWare games as well. Like they've been part of WarioWare since the first one on the DS and of course the Game Boy Advance. But they weren't like the main developers. But it wasn't until like the newer WarioWare games. I think starting with I think WarioWare Gold was their first one, where they were like the main developers on WarioWare, and they've been doing them ever since.
I heard that one's pretty good. Like these WarioWare games are top notch.
In fact, Garrett, this year we're going to have 2 Intelligent Systems games released in the same year, because they did Fire Emblem Engage earlier in there, and then WarioWare Move It. That's coming out this week. They're also doing that game too.
Do they have like 2 teams going on at the same time, or
they actually have multiple teams? I think they have like 3 or 4 teams. I was reading, because they have like they own 8 different buildings, Garrett, where they work out of.
That's kind of big. I didn't realize how big they were.
Yeah, they're pretty big, because they work on a lot of stuff at the same time. And of course, Garrett, before we go back to kind of to round things out, I would be remiss if I didn't mention their last new IP that they tried, Garrett. 2015's Codename Steam on the Nintendo 3DS. Everyone was very excited about this one. And it was not one that turned out very well, unfortunately. Which is too bad.
We'll talk about that later. How about that?
Yeah, we'll talk about Codename Steam. Actually, I think someone actually had a question about Codename Steam, so I guess we will for sure be talking about it later. But Yeah, so there you go. Those are the fun facts about Intelligent Systems. Again, they're I'm not rattling off the number of games that they've worked on because it's a lot.
It's
It's a
so
lot of
many.
games.
Yeah. They're a very eclectic studio. It seems like, they're going like they have 3 really stable series that they're
Mhm.
working on constantly in rotation. You got
Now
Paper
4 if you
Mario.
technically count WarioWare as well.
Yeah, okay, so they got Fire Emblem, Paper Mario, WarioWare, and what was the other one?
Um,
Advance Wars?
Advance
No,
Wars.
not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they don't really do it anymore. Advance Wars was like, revamped, and I'm wondering if they're gonna outsource that.
I'm just pretending like they'll eventually do Advance Wars again, Garrett. Please, please don't say out loud that they'll never come back to it because I want them to come back to it.
Well, I think, well, who's the studio that revamped Advance
It
Wars?
was
I
Way
forget.
Forward.
Way Forward. Like a studio like that could easily do a sequel. I could see another. I want another indie studio to do it. Like I am itching to play Wargroove 2.
Okay.
I have it on my Steam Deck, and I love the first one, and I think that studio can do a pretty good job at Advance Wars, as well as they work out the kinks with Wargroove,
Mhm.
which is I really enjoyed. So, I
Yeah, you're right.
we'll
Like
see.
if they're ever
We'll
gonna
see.
do a sequel to Advance Wars or like a reboot, you're right. It is probably gonna be another studio that does it rather than Intelligent Systems. But
Yeah, yeah.
because at this point, like who who even knows how many copies Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp actually sold at this point, Garrett? Like it's
Not
not
too
many
much.
because
Yeah, it
because it
it
never
killed the
broke a
hype.
million. We know that for sure because
That's kinda crazy,
they because
actually.
whenever Nintendo does their quarterly earnings, they
Yeah,
always indicate what games have broke a million for the first time. Even if they're games that released a long time ago, Advance Wars has never made that list all year.
that's, interesting. Like, a lot of people would kill to have 1,000,000 sold, but, like, I as much hype as Advance Wars had and how much, it's a Nintendo kinda published and very and they were advertising it quite a bit, even though they killed the hype by delaying it or whatever, but they still came
Yeah.
back and was like, here's the game and we're releasing it. Yeah, it's interesting that it did not sell 1,000,000. So,
No, no, there's just not many
all
of
right
us
then.
Advance Wars fans out there anymore, Garrett. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But also too, I think like to your point, like I think the delay really killed the momentum that game kind of had. Like I think that plays a bigger
Yes,
part in that than we're kind of leaning on a little bit here.
I think
But
so.
yeah, but yeah, but all in all, they get you're right. So 3 big franchises. Again, if you don't include Advance Wars, assuming they're not coming back to it, which is still really good. Like they've got
Yes.
like there's a Wario War game consistently. We've got Fire Emblem fairly consistently, and of course Paper Mario. You kind of get one every generation, but there's still lots of Paper Mario games, and we've got of course Passing Your Door coming out next year, Garrett. So
Yes.
another Paper Mario this year.
The remastered. I'm looking forward to that one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we know kind of the history and the games, I'm going to ask you this question, Garrett, because I'm wondering because we've talked about this a little bit, but do you think that they'll ever join Nintendo? Like Nintendo will ever buy them, or they're just going to stay in this limbo forever, where they're just going to be like, yeah, we know you're not going to go anywhere, but we don't have to buy you, kind of thing. Like, is that just going to last forever? How's that going to work? What do you think?
Your guess is as good as mine. I feel like it's been so long that they're gonna just keep going at this until it financially or economically makes sense to kind of be acquired by them. It's a very different mentality than let's say what Xbox is doing, kind of like going after studios and making sure that they have a huge dynamic portfolio, within their umbrella, right? It's very well because intelligent systems, since as you said, like the birth of it is really only with Nintendo. They're not going to go with really any other studio. They don't have any other experience with other platforms,
Mhm.
with PlayStation or Xbox. So, yeah, if Nintendo doesn't feel the incentive to buy them now, is like, and then Intelligent Systems like we're fine with this contract. They'll just keep at it until, um, if I would say external factors would influence it more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it might be like a situation where like with like Next Level Games where another company maybe swoops in and tries to like throw them as an offer
Tencent.
and tries to acquire them, like Tencent to your point.
Yeah.
And then at that point, maybe that's when Nintendo swoops in and is like, nope, you're coming with us. We'll pay $200,000 yen TP, and they'll be like, yeah, sure, we're good with that. Yeah, like it'll be like a very small amount. Like that one studio that Nintendo acquired last year for, I think they acquired them for like 1,000 yen or something because they were just like, yeah, because it was mostly just a handshake, and they had to like send some money across.
I see. I said it just sent something. He's like, yeah, you're with us, kind of deal.
Yeah, because they wanted to be part of Nintendo, and Nintendo wanted to acquire them, and like,
wait, which
in
studio
order to
was this
technically
again?
buy them, they technically had to pay money. I can't remember who it was, but it was a really small studio.
Oh, okay.
It was like one of one of the animated studios, actually.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I just remember it making news last year and everyone just laughing about it a little bit because they had to actually pay, some kind of fee to acquire them, essentially.
1,000 yen is like what? Like it's less than $1,
it's like
right?
$10.
Oh, $10. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they had to, because you can't acquire like a company without paying money, a monetary sum of some kind. So they had to do like basically the minimum.
Such a different mentality than what we're seeing with even with PlayStation, with Sony. Like it's not like they're grabbing exclusives, right, from different studios. But like they still are thinking of what should be in our portfolio. It's like these are our games. These are like kind of powerhouse studios. These are our support studios. Where and Xbox is kind of a similar thing, only like grabbing and kind of like making this Transformer mutant thing with Bethesda and Activision and just merging them together. It's like Nintendo's like, I mean, we're good, and Intelligent Systems making us Fire Emblem, which is one of the best selling franchises now, and the Nintendo IP. I would say it's like a B, B rated franchise, like and A rated. I would say Mario and Zelda, and I think Fire Emblem's right below it now.
Yeah,
for sure.
In fact, for a long time, Garrett, I actually felt like it was much closer to being an A franchise for Nintendo, and then it's actually maybe dipped a little bit, but because we just see so much Fire Emblem stuff from Nintendo.
We do.
Yeah, which is
quite a bit
crazy to think about, because when Fire Emblem Awakening came out, like that was when they were kind of like on their last legs with the series, where it wasn't selling well, and they were ready to just, like, if that didn't sell well, that was going to be it for Fire Emblem. But because Awakening was a big hit, like that's how they were allowed to continue to make more Fire Emblem games, which is just, again, there's an alternate history out there, Garrett, where Fire Emblem Awakening didn't sell very well, and Intelligent Systems stopped making Fire Emblem games and just devoted themselves to Paper Mario, essentially, and Wario.
Oh, that would be a super sad timeline. No one would like that one.
Yeah,
man, I love Fire Emblem a lot. So
yeah, me too. Which is why, like, I'm glad like it's still around. I mean, that's the power of Smash. Like, Smash, I think, helped make that happen in a lot of ways. Because like that the reason why games like Path of Radiance or Radiant Dawn are so rare and expensive is because they didn't sell well here. So there just aren't as many copies of them as the other Fire Emblem games.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. But Garrett, speaking of that subject, I want to bring in Blaze Knight, because
Blaze Knight.
Blaze Knight has an interesting thought here. Blaze Knight says, pretty much every Fire Emblem game is top tier for me, but Codename Steam holds a special place in my heart as a quick, quirky steampunk tactics game featuring American folklore characters like Abe Lincoln in a mech suit for some reason. It's bonkers fun and a crying shame that the game flopped so hard. So we mentioned, Garrett, we would talk about Codename Steam a little bit later, because like this was because we talked about many times through their history that Intelligent Systems was able to launch big new franchises, and when they really tried to do this with Codename Steam to finally do something different for the longest time, they just couldn't get it off the ground at all. So what do you think kind of led to that? Because was it just too weird? Like, was Abe Lincoln in a mech suit too weird for people to want to jump into? Like, what happened with this one?
So yeah, I followed this game very closely too. It actually became pretty cheap. Well, it probably went up in price now because of 3DS scarcity, but
Yeah.
it got pretty like very cheap price physically. Just how much it flopped. Um, the mechs in the history is fine. Like you can have that. You can have the quirkiness of it. That's okay. It's I wouldn't say the aesthetic is the game's problem.
Mhm.
I've recently played this game, actually. I played this last year.
Oh,
Like just not like beat it, but like I played like I would say 3 or 4 hours.
you wanted to
Like
play it
like
to
just
remind yourself, Garrett. You wanted to remind
remind
yourself.
myself, but also just like I didn't really get into it, like try to give it a good whirl with it. So I was like, you know what? I heard this game. It's a tactical RPG. Let me try it out. Uh man, there's a lot more. There's a lot of different issues than the aesthetic of it. It's really it's the problem is really the camera issue with this game. It gets so like weird out and especially with like imagine an XCOM like game
Mhm.
and that 3DS with top screen only with a bunch of obstacles and enemies all around and you're trying to process in your brain like where are you shooting, where is the enemy shooting, how do I place my enemies. It doesn't really work out just because the 3DS screen is just so small
Right.
and it's just you cannot see anything. And I think that was the major downfall of this game was just
Yeah.
the controls were bad and the gameplay was not the best either. It was just okay. Like I think if the cameras were better, it would be a digestible RPG. But I couldn't go after 4 hours. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not good. This is not
Well,
a
that
good
was like a
game. So,
common thing
mhm.
with third person games in general on the
Yeah,
3DS that involved using the camera because like there was no second analog stick on the 3DS, of course, until you got
the
the
original
new
one. Yeah, mhm.
Nintendo 3DS. But even then, like this game wasn't supported by
Right.
this the Circle Pad Pro, like the
It wasn't.
boat add-on, or the second analog stick on the new Nintendo 3DS. So to your point, like it's so hard to aim in a game like this, where you're like, well, I, that like it's so frustrating to play a game like this because yeah, I also
Mhm.
played it and put it down very quickly because I'm like, nope, this is just this is not good. This is not a good game. It's
Yeah,
not even. It
I
wasn't
wasn't
even the
enjoying it.
weirdness for me. Like I wanted to give it a chance because I loved Fire Emblem and again at the time I didn't know they were working on Paper Mario, but I did like those games too. So I was like, oh well, maybe I'll like Codenames Team. Their new thing. And it was yeah, you're right, 100%. Like it's more the gameplay more than anything that was the downfall for this one, which
Yeah,
is too bad
yeah.
because it was just ruined by the hardware itself.
Yeah, I think if this was on Switch, like it debuted on Switch, it would I think there would be a much different reception, especially with the controls. It
Mhm.
would be much easier, I think, on the Switch. So,
Yeah.
anyways.
Exactly. Also, I forgot to mention Garrett because this was reminded me because we were talking about Codenames Team, and I was looking at like the games that released around Codenames Team from Intelligent Systems, and there was one series I forgot to mention earlier, which is Pushmo, because Pushmo
Oh, yeah.
was like the eShop exclusive kind of series. And they
Yeah.
had multiple games like Crash Mo, Pushmo World, Stretch Mo, and those are all Intelligent System games too. So that's another
What
series that they
haven't
had
they
that kind
done?
of died off.
That's kind of funny,
Yeah.
actually.
But yeah, that series kind of like left after the 2015's Stretchmo was the last one. But yeah, it's funny because again they just got all these series. In fact, they had made the face training game for your Nintendo DS as well, where you like stretch your face
Mhm.
and stuff, or like some of the weird little
Oh,
like
right.
mini games for your DSi, like the DSi metronome. They made the DSi metronome, Garrett. So
Metronome. Oh my gosh.
which is
It's
just
just
funny to think about.
it's just like a metronome app kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, because the DSi had a bunch of um like built-in software, but also you can go on the eShop because that was the first time
Yeah, you can go on the
portably
eShop
they
at
had
DSi, yeah.
eShop games that were original to the portable system. So they had weird stuff like that, like the metronome or the instrument tuner or the dictionary 6-in-1 with camera
Instrument
function.
tuner. That's
Because
so
why not?
funny.
Why not, Garrett? But yeah, so that they worked on all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's too bad Codenames team kind of didn't carry on Blaze Knight. Because yeah, I love like really cheesy kind of over the top stuff like that. So I like kind of didn't mind the concept of, you know, Abe Lincoln fighting stuff in mechs or a bunch of American soldiers fighting
I
stuff
didn't
in
mind
mechs.
that
But
at
like,
all. Yeah.
yeah, it was more just the 3DS itself that was kind of the problem.
Oh, God, it's so botched. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't enjoy myself. I really wanted to enjoy a quirky intelligent systems game, but this was not it. Yeah.
So then, real talk, Garrett. Do
Yeah.
we think there's a possible future for Codename Steam, or maybe actually, because I wanted to talk about what their future like. What do you think? What would you want to see from Intelligent Systems future? Like, do you want to just see them kind of continue with the 3 series they have now? Do you want to see them branch out a bit? Like, what do we want to see from like the future of Intelligent Systems? Because for me, like, I kind of like. I like that they're working on the series that they work on, but I also kind of want to see them try something different too. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, me too. Like, Codename Steam was just one of those kind of cool, exciting projects that, they wanted to work on that's more tactical based, that's separate from Fire Emblem. I want them to try that again. Just don't I mean, like, they won't have the camera controls really bogging them down now with the Switch and then the Switch's successor. So I
Yeah.
can see some success in that. It's like try out a different RPG. Just try it out. It's separate from Fire Emblem, because we both know Fire Emblem has its own cadence. It has its
Yeah.
own signature of characters and like what the style is and what the fantasy setting is, and I really enjoy it. I really do. You can keep on doing that because it's making you a lot of money. But I would like to see these smaller projects other than these party games. I'm not a big party game person
Right.
in general. I don't like,
You
generally
don't have people
like,
over at your house all the time for party games?
no, I don't have parties and in party games. But I understand people like them, and there's an audience for it. So I'm glad that they're making these games for sure. And then Paper Mario, I really, hope they. I didn't really care for the last one, the most recent one.
Right.
But I mean, that's fine. I think other people really enjoyed it too. So it's a very divisive game. Um, so I'm sure they'll continue on with the Paper Mario series, but I would really like to see them to go back to their roots with
Mhm.
Paper Mario. Um, I think that they're kind of showing it with Thousand Year Door. I don't know if are they remastering it, or is it
Yeah.
another
They are
okay, cool.
listed as the lead developer on this one.
That is
I mean,
interesting.
unless they provide us different information in the future, but as far as we know, that is what Nintendo has told us.
Yeah, so that is an interesting call. I think what's happening there is like, okay, we're making these Paper Mario games. We get this kind of reception, mixed reception of like, we like it. We like some aspects of your new games, but we don't like that you're missing part what was true or what was the roots of it. And of course, people come and go. Well, maybe in Japanese culture, not so much, but maybe
Mhm.
there's some differences in teams that are working on the Paper Mario series, that there's like, okay, let's kind of like, go back and kind of remaster and look through the systems and the code. I think it's a smart move, because I think what you'll see is like, if down the road is a new Paper Mario game that may be closer aligned to, let's say, A Thousand Year Door.
Right.
So that would be cool to see, actually. Um,
Yeah, like
come back to
I think
life.
it's good if it does well, like we'll see them go back in that direction. Because that's in a lot of ways, it's I think the 2 most successful Paper Mario games are the first 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
I mean, Origami King I think is up there too, but that's just because it was on Switch.
Yeah.
And probably not because of the game itself. So like,
I think the
um,
game, I hear a lot of people like it. Like,
yeah, that's true.
it's fun for a lot of people. I think, but there's other people that really liked Thousand Year Door
Right.
in the original game that did not like Origami King at all. or did not like it, but like thought it was just kind of boring. There's lack of RPG mechanics really in there compared to So anyways, I think they're just kind of focusing is like, okay, what can we bring? What can we add that we've like that we've done way back in the day into a new Paper Mario game? That would be dope for sure.
For sure. Like I think that's just going to help that series down the road. Whereas with Fire Emblem, I kind of, after Engage kind of playing it safe because it was kind of the anniversary game. It just made sense to. Like I also want to see them kind of do something different with Fire Emblem, something completely different, kind of like what they did with Three Houses. Where like, I don't want another game like Three Houses. I want them to do something different, kind of like Three Houses was, where it was a departure from the series, trying something new. Like that's kind of what I want to see more than anything from them. Which is why because they've been around for so long, and we've seen over the years them trying different things, and that's all I want from them in the future, is to continue to take risks and not just settle in to the three franchises they have now and just keep doing the same thing over the time. And the real thing we need, Garrett, is to bring back the DSi metronome for the Switch. The Switch needs a good metronome, Garrett.
No, you don't. You can let a random there. I'm sure there's that calculator app on Switch. I'm sure someone can make a metronome app game for 99 cents on the eShop.
You see this, Garrett. You're hypothesizing that this game doesn't currently exist when it actually probably exists already.
It probably does. Just to kind of put my thoughts on Fire Emblem. It's one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. I think definitely the next one there's rumors, like too many rumors, too much noise, that it's going to be a remake of the first Fire Emblem game. So that's going to be locked in. It's been done for a while. So I can imagine that coming out next year. But very close after that, I would say 2025 or 26, you can see another new Fire Emblem game. They've been
like I imagine like the
time.
next mainline Fire Emblem game like targets like the year after Switch 2 launches, kind of like with Three Houses. Like they kind of aimed for that, and it got delayed by a year. But I think that's what they're going to try and aim for with the next one, which hopefully should come out actually on time this time, because last the delay with Three Houses was just they just really weren't used to making games in HD and not making console game or making portable games in a lot of ways, because it's been a while since then. So it made sense why they would take longer than normal. So I feel like the turnaround time won't be as long with whatever this next one will be. So 2025, you're probably right about that being the next mainline one, and you're right, we probably get like genealogy of the Holy War or another Fire Emblem remake next year of some kind.
Yeah, definitely. So I can't wait. I'm looking forward to, because I really liked the Fire Emblem Echoes on 3DS in 2017. That was actually one of my favorite Fire Emblem games, just because it just stripped down all the fluff and just went through kind of a basic story. I'm totally down for. He's bringing out the special edition. He always does that. I have that one, the limited edition one. I really love the aesthetic of Fire Emblem Echoes. I don't know. It's a special place in my heart.
It's a cool game. It was also a cool game on the Famicom, Garrett, back in the day. Well, let's get into some of our listener inquiries as well. We got a couple more. So first off, we got the Muffin Mon. Of course, I asked on the Discord what some of y'all's favorite intelligent system games were, and Kevin Ainsworth, the Muffin Mon, said, I genuinely had no idea that the team that made Fire Emblem was also making the Paper Mario games. My favorite is obviously Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I think is generally one of the best RPGs of all time. That's high praise from Kevin Ainsworth.
It's a good one,
because Kevin Ainsworth plays literally every RPG, so it's interesting that he said that.
That's true. He plays, like, I would say 99% of RPGs out there already. So that is high praise.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes I'm always looking over my shoulder. I'm like, oh my God, Kevin Ainsworth is coming for my job at some point, because he's played more RPGs than me, and he'll take over because he's
in record time.
Garrett, he'll tell you about all the Trails games all the time, and you'll love it.
He beat each of them in 5 hours.
Yeah.
I'm just
Well,
messing with you.
of course. And of course, last question of the week comes to us from Rybo, who asked the question. I first read this as you'd be talking about the history of intelligence, of which I believe you both probably could. My favorite game
Let's do it.
is Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, but I want to give a shout out to Mario Kart Super Circuit. Now, the real question is, Karen, and I'm going to fact check this. I didn't even know that they worked on Mario Kart Super
They worked
Circuit.
the Super Circuit, the GBA version?
In fact, not only did they work on it, Garrett, they were the lead developer on Mario Kart Super Circuit.
That is so weird.
I didn't know this until now. And I just did a whole bunch of research for this episode, and I somehow missed this.
Oh my god, you're right.
In fact, it is in the list of games too.
Mario Kart Super Circuit. Goodness gracious.
Well, there you go. Well, Rybo is definitely teaching us stuff tonight, Garrett. But Rybo has a question, if you may.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, go for it.
Rybo asks, what one non-role-playing game do you wish had more RPG elements? And also, I love Rybo's reaction. He's like, I taught Ryan something, and what a time to be alive. Because Rybo, of course, is here in the chat. Yes. Shout out to Rybo, by the way, who's hanging out with us the whole show. So, Garrett, is there one game that you wish, like a non-role-playing game that you wish had more RPG elements? Because, like, I mean, I have one series that just comes to mind when I read this question, and it's Zelda. Because, like, I actually like the idea of Zelda going more in the action RPG direction, to the point where, you know, my favorite Zelda game is the one that is actually an RPG versus the other ones that aren't so much. So, like, I kind of want to see more RPG elements in Zelda, especially with like maybe like whatever the sequel is to Tears of the Kingdom, like the next open world Zelda game, like maybe have some RPG elements there. You're already changing out equipment. So maybe bring in some more RPG elements to that game. I think that'd be interesting. What do you think about this question, Garrett? Because I'm curious.
So I think, you know, playing Parasite Eve kind of like opened the door for me for horror games.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ryan. But I really think I also play Resident Evil 2 this year. And it was fantastic. I really liked it. I need to play the second playthrough of it. I Jill, I haven't played that one yet. But I love the aesthetic. I love the gameplay. I just, you know, it's not an RPG though. So I was like, what could you do with like a Resident Evil, like either Evil 4, 2 remake or whatever, but have some RPG mechanics in there?
Yeah,
that would be excellent. I think that is a huge opportunity for Capcom or Square Enix.
Again, like I've pitched this a while ago. Like I still think the Resident Evil RPG should be a thing. Like I can't believe Capcom hasn't done it already. Like even if they don't feel confident to do it internally, like bring another studio in to do that. Like I think like that would be super interesting to do. Like
they got the Monster Hunter people right there. Like
but the Monster Hunter Stories people are right there.
The Monster Hunter Stories people, like that would be amazing. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a turn-based RPG. No. I just want some kind of skills and some leveling system going on. Maybe like kind of a open playbox sandbox area type of deal. I'm not saying go full template Assassin's Creed on it. I'm just saying add a little bit more RPG flavor into it. I think that would be super dope. There's a lot of stories to tell in that type of that type of game for sure.
Yeah, because I feel like they don't need to bring the RPG elements into the mainline Resident Evil games, because otherwise
no, they don't.
It would scare too many fans off. But I think like doing a spin-off, a Resident Evil spin-off that is like RPG focused, I think is the way to go with that. And I'm surprised they haven't done it sooner, because I think that makes like perfect sense.
And it'll be a tactical card game. And it will be amazing. You'll have all your zombies and monsters into your deck, and you got Jill in there. You got some spell and trap cards. It's gonna be lovely.
Green herb the card, Garrett.
Green herb the card.
Yep.
Gotta fit into a little backpack, you know.
Yeah.
Do some geometry in there, some Tetris.
Yeah, or else it's not gonna fit. And then you'll be real sad because you'll have to just drop your cards. The other one I thought of actually that, and the reason I thought about this one is actually, comparing it to Castlevania, is Metroid, like 2D Metroid.
Oh yeah,
Could deal with some extra RPG elements because it's really worked for Castlevania with their Metroidvania style games.
that's true.
Especially on the DS, like those 3 games are very solid and they're all basically Metroidvania RPGs. And like I think
Hmm.
Metroid could actually serve to actually do something like that, where you maybe do like a spin-off 2D Metroid game that is like that is more RPG focused. Or
Hmm.
maybe you do that with the mainline 2D Metroid games. I don't know. But I think
Hmm.
that's an interesting way to like spice up the 2D Metroid formula, is to have RPG elements rather than kind of keeping it the same formula every time.
That would be cool. Because I think Castlevania Symphony of the Night is a very special game,
Mhm.
because of the RPG mechanics in there. They'll have to frame it just right for the 2D Metroid. I think Mercury Steam has really nailed down the formula of
Mhm.
of what a 2D Metroid game is, introducing RPG mechanics. They'll have to, make sure the beginning of the game is like that's what we have in mind, is this other flavor
Yeah.
putting in there. But I think they can pull it off
Yeah.
for sure.
I think so. And maybe, just maybe, when you level up Samus, you get the little fancy writing that says level up like you do in Castlevania, because it's
Oh
like
yeah, that
not cursive, but it's
yeah,
like really fancy level
it's
up.
a very very fancy writing. Yes,
Yes,
I love it.
exactly. All right, there you go, Garrett. I think that's going to do it for tonight's level of the RPG. But before we go, Garrett plugs go.
You can follow me at Twitter, or X, as the kids call it now, at Blaine Explosion. And you can also find me on the Discord. Very active in RPG Cave and PC gaming and Xbox Drive. I mean, if you want to talk Steam Deck, just really message me in PC gaming, and
Garrett's
just
your guy,
uh,
your Steam
I
Deck
I
guy.
will I will literally talk about the latest videos about the HD screen for Steam Deck, where you have to manually take out your screen, and the adhesive below. Make sure you don't crack the screen or anything. And it'll take like 3 hours, and they'll eventually pop off the screen and then replace it with a new one that's 1200p resolution. But it's also not supported by Steam OS, so you have to, install a custom BIOS. And anyways, it's a whole thing. It's so interesting what people are doing out there
That's so much
with the
work,
Steam
Garrett.
Deck.
That's so much work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, and yeah, I feel like, if I had like a dedicated room and like time to do this, I would
Yeah.
try to attempt to do it. But man, it sounds so aggravating. Anyways, that's pretty much it, Ryan. What about you?
Very nice, my friend. As for me, now that I no longer have to sneeze, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turfin. You also find us on Twitter at Carpool Gaming. Do not forget, folks, Extra Life is happening this weekend. Of course, make sure to come hang out with us
Don't forget.
all weekend, twitch.tv/Carpool Gaming Live. Of course, we will have a pregame activity starting on Thursday as well, or
Oh dang,
Thursday,
Thursday.
as the kids say. So look out for that as well. Sean should have the details about that soon. And then, of course, you can find us right here, youtube.com/carpool gaming. Of course, podcast services around the globe. So for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the 113th level of the RPG Cave, and we're out.
Bye bye.